Let's face it, if you don't tell your money where to go, it's going to leave you wondering where it went. And that's not a feeling anyone likes. Let me ask you something. Have you ever worked your tail off all month, gotten that paycheck, and then poof, it's gone before you even had a chance to enjoy it? Maybe you thought, I'm earning good money, so why do I feel like I'm broke all the time? That, my friend, is the result of living without a plan. You're not alone. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck in America today. Not because they don't make enough, but because they don't make enough, but because they don't have a system to manage what they've got. And you know what that feels like? It feels like a hamster wheel. You're running as hard as you can, but you're not getting anywhere. Creating a budget isn't about being restricted. It's about being intentional. It's about telling every dollar you earn exactly where it needs to go. Whether that's to pay off debt, put food on the table, save for your kids' college fund, or finally book that vacation you've been dreaming about. It's about control. And let me tell you, when you take control of your money, you'll feel something you might not have felt in years. Peace. Peace knowing the bills are paid. Peace knowing the bills are paid.
Peace knowing you're not one flat tire away from a financial crisis.
Peace knowing that your future is secure. Now I get it. The word budget might make some of you cringe. You're picturing spreadsheets, calculators, and no fun ever again. But that's a lie. A budget isn't a cage, it's freedom. It's the difference between feeling panicked every time a bill shows up and being able to handle it with confidence. It's the difference between watching your money slip through your fingers and watching it build a life you're proud of. Think about it like this. If you're trying to drive across the country, you don't just hop in the car and hope for the best, right? You plan your route. You make sure there's gas in the tank, and you check the map along the way.
That's exactly what a budget does for your money. It's your map. It's the tool that turns your hard work into something meaningful instead of letting it disappear into a black hole of mindless spend. Here's the reality.
You can either manage your money or your money will manage you. And if you let your money manage you, guess what? It's not going to take you anywhere you want to go. You've got dreams, don't you? Things you want to achieve, experiences you want to have, a legacy you want to have, a legacy you want to leave. Those things aren't going to happen by accident. You've got to be intentional.
You've got to make a plan.
And that plan starts with a monthly budget. Look, I'm not here to guilt trip you. I've been there. I've made money, lost money, and started over from scratch. What I'm telling you is this. You don't have to stay stuck. You have to stay stuck. You have the power to take control, to rewrite your financial story, and to build a future you're excited about. But you got to decide. Are you going to keep letting money slip through your fingers? Or are you ready to stand up, take charge, and start living on purpose? Let's be clear. A budget won't magically fix your problems overnight. It's going to take work, discipline, and some tough decisions. But I promise you, it's worth it. Because the alternative, staying in the chaos, the stress, the worry, that's no way to live. So here's the deal. Today is the day you draw a line in the sand. Today is the day you say, enough is enough. You're smarter than this. You're capable of more. And it's time to take back control.
Are you ready? Then let's get started. Let me tell you something that might blow your mind. Every single dollar you earn needs a job. That's right, every single dollar. If your money doesn't have a job, it's going to wander off and disappear into the abyss of, I don't know where it went. You've got to be intentional.
This is where the magic of the zero-based budget comes in.
And no, this isn't some complicated financial wizardry. It's a simple, straightforward system that will change your life.
It's so simple. In fact, that you could do it with a pen, a piece of paper, and a little determination. Here's how it works. At the beginning of each month, you sit down, look at your income, and give every single dollar a purpose until you hit zero. That's right. Income minus expenses equals zero. You don't leave a single dollar unemployed.
Now, when I say zero, I don't mean you're going to spend everything you make. No, no, no. That's not what we're about here. This isn't about spending. It's about assigning. That means some of your dollars will go toward necessities like rent or a mortgage, utilities, groceries, and transportation. Others will go toward paying off debt, saving for the future, or giving generously. Maybe some dollars are earmarked for fun because, yes, it's okay to have fun when you're living on a budget. The point is, every dollar has a mission. Nothing is left to chance. Why is this so important? Because when you don't give your money direction, it ends up running your life instead of the other way around. Zero-based budget puts you in the driver's seat.
It forces you to be intentional, to make decisions ahead of time, and to stay on track with your goals. Think about it like this. If you were building a house, would you just wing it and hope it turns out okay? Of course not. You'd have a blueprint. You'd know exactly where every nail, board, and brick is supposed to go. Your budget is your financial blueprint. Without it, you're just hoping your money builds the life you want. And hope, my friends, is not a strategy.
Let's be real here. The first time you sit down to do a zero-based budget, it might feel a little overwhelming. That's normal. But don't let it scare you off. It's going to take a little time and practice to get it right. The good news is it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. You're going to make adjustments along the way. Maybe the first month you forget to account for something, like that Netflix subscription you've been paying for but forgot you even had. That's okay. You're learning. And the more you do it, the better you'll get. Before long, it'll become second nature. Here's the thing. Zero-based budget isn't about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes to the right things. It's about being intentional with your money so you can finally start seeing progress.
And let me tell you, progress feels amazing. There's nothing like the feeling of knowing exactly where your money is going and seeing it work for you instead of against you. You'll start to feel in control, and that control brings peace.
No more wondering if you'll have enough to make it to the end of the month. No more surprises when the credit card bill arrives. No more feeling like your money has a mind of its own.
With a zero-based budget, you're in charge. But listen, it's not just about the math. It's about your mindset. It's about making a decision to stop being passive and start being passive and start being proactive. It's about saying, I'm going to control my money instead of letting my money control me. It's about breaking the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck and finally making real progress toward your goals. It's about freedom. Because when you know exactly where your money is going, you're not stuck in the chaos. You can breathe. You can dream. You can give. And that's what this is all about. Creating a life where you're not just surviving, but thriving. So, are you ready to give every dollar a job? Are you ready to take control of your financial blueprint and start building the life you've always wanted? Then grab that pen and paper, pull up your bank account, and let's get to work. Your first zero-based budget is waiting, and so is your financial peace. Let's go. Let's talk about priorities. If you're going to build a strong financial foundation, you've got to start with the essentials. I call these the 4 walls. And let me tell you, if your financial house is falling apart, these walls are what will keep it standing. Imagine for a second that you're in the middle of a storm. The winds are howling, the rain is pouring down, and everything around you feels like chaos. What's the first thing you do? You don't worry about the flowers in the garden or the pictures on the wall. You protect the structure that keeps you safe. That's exactly what the 4 walls are for your finances.
They're the things that make sure you and your family are taken care of no matter what's happening around you.
So what are the 4 walls? First, there's food. Let's be real. No one can function if they're hungry. You've got to put groceries on the table before you even think about anything else. And I'm not talking about eating out at fancy restaurants or blowing hundreds of dollars at Whole Foods on organic truffle oil. I'm talking about real, simple, frills food that keeps your family fed and your budget intact. You don't need lobster when chicken will do. You don't need steak when ground beef will get the job done. Keep it simple. This is about survival, not luxury. Next, there's shelter. You've got to keep a roof over your head. That means paying your rent or mortgage before you worry about anything else. Listen, you can't pay off a credit card if you don't have a place to sleep at night. Your home is your safe space. It's where you recharge, where you raise your kids, where you build your dreams. Protect it. And let me say this, if your rent or mortgage is eating up more than 30 of your take, home pay, it might be time to make some tough decisions.
Downsizing isn't fun, but living with constant financial stress is worse. Don't let pride keep you in a house or apartment you can't afford. The third wall is transportation. You've got to be able to get to work, get your kids to school, and run the errands that keep your life moving. Now, this doesn't mean you need a brand new car with all the bells and whistles. You don't need heated seats or a sunroof to get to work. What you need is a reliable vehicle that's paid off or as close to paid off as possible. And if you're drowning in a massive car payment right now, let me be blunt. Sell the car.
Yes, it might sting.
Yes, you might have to drive an older, less flashy vehicle for a while, but you'll sleep a lot better at night knowing that your car isn't taking food off your table or putting your home at risk.
Finally, we've got utilities. This is about keeping the lights on, the water running, and the heat or air conditioning going. These are the basics that keep your family safe and comfortable. Now, if you're in a tight spot, don't be afraid to call your utility companies and ask for payment arrangements. They'd much rather work with you than have you default. And for the love of all things good, turn off the lights when you leave a room. Small changes add up. Here's the deal. If the four walls aren't secure, nothing else matters. You don't send money to a credit card company or a debt collector until you've taken care of these essentials. Let me say that again. The four walls come first. Not the minimum payment on your Visa. Not the furniture store that keeps calling you about that interest. Free couch. Not the gym membership or the streaming subscriptions. Not the gym membership or the streaming subscriptions. You've got to protect your family and your basic needs before you even think about tackling anything else.
I know this might sound harsh.
I know some of you are thinking, but Dave, I can't just ignore my bills. And you're right, you can't ignore them forever. But here's the truth. If you're barely scraping by, sending money to a debt collector isn't going to fix your situation.
It's just going to dig the hole deeper. When you prioritize the four walls, you're giving yourself the breathing room you need to create a real plan. You're stabilizing your foundation so you can start building something better.
Let me tell you, this isn't about being irresponsible. This is about survival. It's about putting your family first and refusing to let fear or guilt dictate your decisions. It's about saying, I will take care of my household before I send another penny to someone else. And you know what?
That's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's necessary. You're not a bad person for making sure your kids are fed and your home is safe. You're being smart. You're being intentional.
And you're setting yourself up for success. So here's your homework. Take a hard look at your budget and make sure the four walls are the first things you fund every single month. If you've got to cut back on other things to make that happen, do it. Cancel subscriptions. Eat at home. Say no to stuff you don't need, because when the storm comes, and it will come, you'll be ready. You'll have a solid foundation to stand on. And that, my friends, is how you start building financial peace. Let's secure those walls and move forward. You've got this. All right, let's get real for a second. If you're serious about getting your finances under control, you've got to make some sacrifices. And I know that word, sacrifice. Doesn't sound fun.
It's not something you see on Instagram with a hashtag like living my best life. But let me tell you the truth. Sacrifices today lead to freedom tomorrow. That's the deal.
If you're drowning in debt, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're constantly stressed about money, then something has to change. And change starts with cutting out the extra. Here's the problem. We live in a culture that tells us we deserve it all right now, whether we can afford it or not. Streaming services, subscription boxes, brand new gadgets, fancy coffees, eating out 3 times a week. Those things might feel small, but they add up fast. And before you know it, your bank account is empty and you're left wondering how it happened. Listen, it's time to stop playing this game of pretending we're millionaires when we're not. You don't need to keep up with the Joneses because the Joneses are broke. You need to start living like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else. Now, I'm not saying you can never have fun again. I'm not saying you have to live on rice and beans forever. But if you're in a financial hole, it's time to stop digging. And that means taking a hard, honest look at your spending and asking yourself, do I really need this? For example, how many subscription services do you have right now?
Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Amazon Prime. Do you even know? Cancel the ones you don't actually use. You're not going to miss them as much as you think you will.
And that gym membership you signed up for 6 months ago but haven't touched.
Say goodbye to it. You can go for a run outside for free. Eating out for lunch every day, pack a sandwich and bring it from home. It's not glamorous, but it works.
Here's the thing. Every dollar you save by cutting out the extras is a dollar you can put towards something that actually matters, like paying off debt, building an emergency fund, or saving for your future.
And you've got to keep that bigger picture in mind. Sure, skipping the Starbucks drive through might not feel like a big win, but when you add it up over time, those small changes can make a massive difference.
Let's do some quick math. If you're spending $5 a day on coffee, that's $150 a month. That's $1,800 a year. And don't even get me started on eating out. If you're serious about getting your finances in order, you've got to stop letting your money drip away on things that don't bring long-term value to your life. And listen, cutting back isn't just about saving money.
It's about shifting your mindset. It's about learning to say no to things that don't align with your goals so you can say yes to the things that do.
It's about finding contentment in what you already have instead of always chasing the next shiny thing. I'll let you in on a little secret. You don't need the latest iPhone to be happy. You don't need a new car to feel successful. And you definitely don't need to upgrade your wardrobe every season to impress people who aren't even paying attention. True happiness doesn't come from stuff. It comes from freedom. And financial freedom is worth far more than anything money can buy. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Dave, I don't want to give up my fun. And I get it. Cutting back can feel like you're losing something. But here's the truth. You're not losing anything. You're gaining control. You're gaining peace. You're gaining the ability to sleep at night without worrying about how you're going to pay the bills. And let me tell you, that feels a whole lot better than a fancy dinner or the latest gadget. This isn't about deprivation. It's about discipline. It's about choosing to live like no one else right now so that later, when you're out of debt and building wealth, you can enjoy life without the stress. Imagine being able to buy what you want, not because you swiped a credit card, but because you actually have the cash. Imagine being able to take a vacation without coming home to a pile of bills. Imagine being able to give generously to people in need without even thinking twice. That's what cutting back now allows you to do later.
So here's the challenge. Take a deep dive into your spending and start slashing the extras. Be ruthless. Cancel what you don't need. Cut back where you can and redirect that money toward your goals.
It's not going to be easy, and it's not always going to be fun. But I promise you, it's worth it, because every dollar you save today is a step closer to the life you want tomorrow. You've got what it takes. Now go make it happen.
Let me tell you something about budgets. They aren't set it and forget it. A budget isn't a magic wand you wave once a month and then leave it alone to do all the work for you. A budget is alive. A budget is alive. It moves, it breathes, and it changes.
And if you're not keeping an eye on it, guess what? It's going to sneak off in the middle of the night, and before you know it, your money will be gone. That's why weekly tracking is so important.
Think of it like steering a ship. If you don't check your course regularly, even the smallest shift can send you miles off track. But if you're checking in every week, you can make those tiny adjustments and stay headed straight toward your financial goal. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dave, I'm already busy enough. I don't have time to sit down and go over my budget every week.
Listen, this isn't about spending hours hunched over a spreadsheet. This is about taking 10, 15 minutes once a week to check in with your money. That's it. It's quick, it's simple, and it's powerful. Because when you're tracking your budget weekly, you're catching problems before they spiral out of control.
You're staying proactive instead of reactive. And that's the difference between feeling in control and feeling like you're constantly putting out financial fire.
Here's what a weekly check-in looks like. First, sit down with your budget and compare it to what's actually happening in your bank account. Did you stick to your plan this week? If not, why? Maybe you forgot about a bill that came due. Maybe you overspent on groceries. Maybe you treated yourself to an extra night out. Whatever it is, you're not here to beat yourself up. You're here to figure out what happened, adjust, and move forward. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Every week, you're getting a little better at managing your money and sticking to your plan.
And let me tell you, this is especially important if you're married. A weekly budget meeting with your spouse is like financial marriage counseling. It gets you both on the same page, working toward the same goals, and holding each other accountable. When you're not communicating about money, it's easy for resentment to build up. One of you is trying to save while the other is out spending, and pretty soon you're both frustrated and feeling like you're pulling in opposite directions. But when you're sitting down together every week, looking at the numbers and talking about what's coming up, you're building trust and teamwork. You're saying, we're in this together. And that's a game changer. Now, let's talk about what happens when life throws you a curveball, because it will. Maybe the car breaks down. Maybe the car breaks down. Maybe your kid needs new shoes. Maybe your water heater decides to quit in the middle of winter. These things are going to happen, and they're going to mess with your budget. That's normal. That's life. But when you're checking in every week, you can handle those curveballs without panicking.
You can shuffle things around, make adjustments, and keep moving forward. Weekly tracking gives you the flexibility to deal with the unexpected while staying in control of your overall plan.
And let's not forget about the small wins. When you're tracking weekly, you get to see the little victories along the way. Maybe you paid an extra $100 on your credit card this week. Maybe you stayed under budget on groceries. Maybe you resisted the temptation to buy that thing you didn't really need. Celebrate those wins. They might not feel huge in the moment, but they're proof that you're making progress.
And progress, my friends, is how you keep your motivation alive. It's how you keep going when the journey feels long. It's how you remind yourself that you're capable of achieving your goal.
But here's the most important thing about weekly tracking.
It keeps you engaged with your money. When you're checking in every week, you're building a habit. You're training yourself to be intentional.
You're rewiring your brain to think about money differently. And that over time changes everything. Because let's be honest, most people don't fail with their finances because they're bad at math.
They fail because they're not paying attention. Weekly tracking forces you to pay attention. It forces you to stay focused. And when you're focused, you win.
So here's your challenge. Commit to a weekly budget check in for the next month. Put it on your calendar. Make it a non-negotiable part of your routine. If you're married, do it with your spouse. If you're single, grab a cup of coffee, sit down with your budget, and check in with yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be consistent.
Because when you're consistently tracking your budget week after week, you're building the habits and the mindset that lead to long-term success. And that's what this is all about, creating a life where you're in control of your money, not the other way around. You've got this. Let's get to work. Let's talk about discipline.
I know it's not the most exciting word in the world. Discipline isn't flashy. It doesn't get a lot of likes on social media. No one's posting a picture of their brown bag lunch with a hashtag like financial freedom journey.
But let me tell you something. Discipline is the bridge between where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. It's the daily choices, the little decisions, the consistent effort that over time completely transforms your financial life. And here's the truth. If you want to win with money, you've got to be disciplined. There's no way around it. You can't shortcut your way to financial freedom. You can't outsmart it, hack it, or Instagram. Filter it. You've got to work for it. You've got to earn it. And discipline is how you do that.
Now, I know discipline doesn't come naturally for most of us. If it did, we'd all have six-pack abs, fully funded retirement accounts, and spotless kitchens. But discipline isn't about being perfect.
It's about making the right choice more often than not. It's about showing up every day and saying, I'm going to do the hard thing even when I don't feel like it, because I know it's worth it. And let me tell you, it is worth it. There's nothing like the freedom that comes from being in control of your money. There's nothing like the peace of knowing you're no longer a slave to debt. There's nothing like the joy of being able to live and give the way you've always dreamed. That's the reward of discipline. That's what you're working toward.
But let's be real. Discipline is hard. It means saying no when everything inside you wants to say yes. It means skipping the drive through when you're tired and don't feel like cooking. It means sticking to your budget when your friends invite you out for dinner, even though you know it's not in the plan. It means turning off the shopping app, walking past the clearance rack, and reminding yourself that no deal is good enough to derail your goal. And let me tell you, those moments aren't fun. They don't feel good in the moment. But every time you say no to something you don't really need, you're saying yes to your future. You're saying yes to paying off debt.
You're saying yes to saving for a rainy day. You're saying yes to the life you actually want, not the one that's being sold to you. Discipline also means sticking with the plan when it feels like you're not making progress. Because here's the thing, financial success doesn't happen overnight. It's not like flipping a switch. It's more like planting a seed. At first, it feels slow. You're watering it, taking care of it, and wondering if anything is even happening. But over time, that seed grows into something amazing, something strong, something that bears fruit.
And that's what discipline does.
It takes the daily effort, the little sacrifices, and turns them into something extraordinary. But you've got to stick with it. You've got to stick with it. You've got to trust the process, even when it feels slow. Because the only way to fail is to quit. And let me remind you of this. Discipline isn't about deprivation. It's not about punishing yourself or living a life of misery. It's about prioritizing the things that matter most. It's about trading temporary comfort for long-term freedom. It's about living like no one else today so that later you can live like no one else. That's not deprivation. That's not deprivation. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's choosing the better thing over the easy thing. Now let's talk about vision. Because discipline without a vision is just drudgery. If you're only focused on what you're giving up, you're going to burn out. But if you keep your eyes on where you're going, on the future you're building, discipline becomes empowering. It becomes exciting. So what's your vision? What's your why? Is it getting out of debt so you can stop worrying every time the phone rings? Is it saving for your kids' college so they can have a better start in life? Is it retiring early so you can travel the world?
Whatever it is, keep that vision in front of you. Write it down. Put it somewhere you'll see it every day. Let it remind you why you're saying no today, because you're saying yes to something so much better tomorrow.
And don't forget to celebrate along the way. When you pay off that first credit card, celebrate. When you hit your emergency fund goal, celebrate. When you stick to your budget for an entire month, celebrate. Those small victories are proof that you're making progress. They're reminders that discipline works, and they'll give you the motivation to keep going when the journey feels long. So here's the bottom line. Discipline isn't easy, but it's worth it. It's what separates people who dream about financial freedom from the people who actually achieve it. It's what turns intentions into actions, goals into reality, and dreams into a life you're proud of. You've got what it takes. You've got the vision, the plan, and the power to make it happen. Now all you need is the discipline to follow through. So make the choice. Show up. Do the work. And remember, the hard things you do today are paving the way for the freedom, peace, and joy you'll experience tomorrow. You can do this. Let's go build your future.